Welcome to Concept in Medicine. In today's tutorial, we are going to be looking at the DNA versus the RNA. Let's begin. So when we talk about the DNA, it stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. And the deoxyribonucleic acid is made up of three structures. We can talk about the pentose sugar. In this case, for the DNA, it will be made up of the deoxyribose sugar. Then we have the phosphate group, and finally the nitrogenous base, depicted in the structure as follows. This is the pentose sugar. You can see that this is a five-sided figure depicting pentose sugar. And for DNA, the pentose sugar is deoxyribose. Then again, the DNA has a phosphate group, and finally the nitrogenous base. And this structure, as drawn here, together is known as the nucleotide. That is what we refer to as the nucleotide. Now let's comment a bit on the nitrogenous base. For the nitrogenous base, it is made up of the purines and the pyrimidines. And for the purines, we can talk about adenine, guanine. What of the pyrimidines? The pyrimidines, you can think of cytosine and thymine. For DNA, it does not have uracil as a pyrimidine. That would be part of the RNA, which we'll be talking about now. All right, let's move ahead. Now let's talk about the RNA. When we say RNA, RNA stands for ribonucleic acid, and it's also made up of the pentose sugar for the ribonucleic acid. The pentose sugar is the ribose sugar, as you can see depicted here. Also has the phosphate group and the nitrogenous base. So looking at the structure here, we have the ribose sugar, the phosphate group, and the nitrogenous base. And these together is known as the nucleotide. And for the nitrogenous base, the purines are going to be the same. That is adenine and guanine. But for the pyrimidines, we will have cytosine and uracil, telling you that RNA does not have thymine. The next thing we want to talk about is what is the relationship between thymine and uracil. Looking at the structure depicted here, we have this compound here with a methyl group. This is a methyl group. But if you look at this particular structure, it does not have the methyl group. So looking at this, we can see that thymine is a methylated uracil, or uracil is a demethylated thymine. I believe we understand this one. All right, let's move on. When we are talking about DNA, you can take the DNA as a polymer because it's made up of a lot of monomers, and take the nucleotide as the monomer, telling you that the nucleotide is the basic unit of the DNA, which is a polymer. So DNA, polymer, nucleotide, monomer. Then the question goes, what about a nucleoside? What about a nucleoside? When we say nucleoside, nucleoside is different from the nucleotide, meaning nucleoside will only have the pentose sugar and the nitrogenous base. It lacks the phosphate group, so it has the pentose sugar and the nitrogenous base. Meaning that if we are looking at this structure here, as we are saying it's a nucleotide, this will not be present. It will not have the phosphate group, and that makes it a nucleoside. Let's move ahead and look at the examples of the nucleotide and the nucleoside. Then on top of that, we would try to relate the nucleoside and the nucleotide. Let's look at the examples of the nucleotide and the nucleoside. For the nucleotide, we can think of adenosine monophosphate, that is AMP, the guanosine monophosphate, that is GMP, inosine monophosphate, IMP, cytosine monophosphate, CMP, thymidine monophosphate, that is TMP, and uridine monophosphate, that is UMP. Those are the examples of the nucleotide. What of the nucleoside? For the nucleoside, we can think of adenosine, guanosine, inosine, cytosine, thymidine, and uridine. Those are the examples of the nucleosides. Then finally, what is the relationship between the nucleotide and the nucleoside. So nucleotide simply is a nucleoside plus the phosphate group. That is why we are having a nucleoside as adenosine, then we are having monophosphate. So a nucleoside with a phosphate group would give you a nucleotide. I believe we have learned something extremely interesting today. Kindly make sure to subscribe to my channel, share, like, and also comment the next concept you would like to see in my next video. My name is Dr. Del, and once again, this is Concept in Medicine. Bye-bye.